Forget the triumphal parades and the white marble under the Mediterranean sun. You are in Rome. But the city is silent and the smoke from the sackings clouds the sky. The borders have collapsed, gold is losing its value, and the emperor is just a frightened child waiting for the end. Suddenly, the city gates open and the barbarians enter to claim what's left of the world. Welcome to the year 476, the end of a 1,000-year dream and the day that changed history forever. In Historia Reconstruida, we journey through the eras and cities that defined the world and give them a visual identity. Let's begin with this trip to the past. Imagine walking through Rome at a time when it is still the heart of an empire, but it's no longer the same heart. All around you, everything seems to resist the passage of time. Temples still standing, columns still casting shadows on the streets, the Roman Forum still the center of public life. But something doesn't fit. It's not visible at first glance, it's not in the stones or the statues, it's in the feeling, in the way the city breathes. Rome is still great, but it no longer feels invincible. It's as if everything is working with effort. For centuries, this was pure stability. Trade routes brought constant wealth from every corner of the Mediterranean. The provinces responded. The army protected the borders with almost mechanical discipline. Before, everything fit. Now, everything is just holding on. And it's not the same, because holding something together requires energy, and Rome is starting to run out. In the midst of this change appears Diocletian. He doesn't arrive in a moment of glory, but in the middle of a crisis. The empire is already under pressure. Economic crises, invasions, internal power struggles. His solution is not small. He decides to divide the empire into two large halves. East and West, two administrations, two centers of power. It's a practical, almost necessary decision, but it's also a sign. Before, Rome could control everything from a single core. Now it needs to fragment to survive. And although the reform works for a while, it doesn't solve the underlying problem. It just redistributes it. Meanwhile, the city tells another story. You move away from the monumental spaces and enter the neighborhoods where the majority live. The insulae rise one above the other, tall, narrow, built quickly to house thousands of people. From the outside, they seem simple. From the inside, there's something else. You climb a staircase that barely lets light through. The air changes, it becomes denser, more humid. The walls are marked by constant use, by the passage of time without maintenance. Everything is too close, too many people, too much noise. There is no silence here, ever. And then you notice it, the fragility, the building creaks. It's not a metaphor, it's literal. The wood, the beams, the joints, everything responds to the weight. A fire can start on the ground floor and within minutes, smoke fills the upper floors. There are no clear evacuation routes, no organized systems, just narrow corridors and staircases that can become traps. And yet, this is where most of Rome lives. Here is where they sleep, here is where they eat, here is where they survive, because there is no alternative. A few steps away, almost without transition, the landscape changes. Spacious villas, interior courtyards, fountains, carefully tended decoration. The difference isn't just economic, it's fundamental. Two realities coexist in the same city, but they don't mix. And that contrast is no longer invisible, it's felt on every corner. Before, inequality existed, but the system absorbed it. Now it begins to strain it. You keep moving and arrive at the market. For centuries, this place was the reflection of Rome's power. Everything arrived here. The wheat from Egypt, essential for feeding the population. The oil from Hispania, the wine from Gaul. Products from every corner of the empire circulated regularly. It was abundance, it was security. But now, something has changed. Not all products are missing, but there are fewer, less variety, less consistency. The merchants know it, the people sense it, prices fluctuate. Confidence is no longer the same, the currency still circulates, gold is still gold, but its value devalues over time. It doesn't disappear, it loses stability, and that alters the whole system. Because when money stops being completely reliable, decisions change, trade becomes more uncertain, transactions slow down, everything starts to depend on too many factors that are no longer under Rome's direct control. And there's the problem. Rome depends on distant places, on routes that can fail, on territories that may stop responding. For centuries, that network worked perfectly. Now it's starting to show cracks. It's not a sudden collapse, it's wear and tear, an accumulation of small faults that together begin to weigh too much. On the borders, the situation doesn't stabilize either. The Germanic peoples constantly press. Some attack. Others seek to enter the empire, not to destroy it, but to become part of it. Rome responds as best it can. Sometimes it fights them, sometimes it negotiates, sometimes it allows them to settle within its territories in exchange for military service. It's a practical solution, but risky, because these groups are not Roman. They don't share the same cultural structure or the same institutional loyalty. The army changes with them. It's no longer the same army that built the empire. It's more diverse, more dependent on agreements, less homogeneous. And in that change, control becomes more complex. It doesn't disappear all at once. It dilutes. Everything keeps working. That's the most deceptive part. Rome doesn't stop. It doesn't freeze. It's still an immense, active, living city. But every part of the system requires more effort than before. Every decision seems to have less margin for error. Every crisis takes longer to resolve until something happens that no one expected to see. Sack of Rome in 410. Rome, the city that for centuries was a symbol of absolute power. The city that had resisted invasions, internal wars, fires. The city that seemed untouchable stops being so. The Visigoths, led by Alaric, arrive at its gates. And this time, they enter. It's not a quick attack. It's not a minor sack in a forgotten periphery. It's Rome, the center, the symbol. For 3 days, the city is vulnerable. Houses looted, sacred spaces desecrated, people fleeing, hiding, trying to understand what is happening. But the most important thing is not what is physically lost. It's what breaks in everyone's mind. Rome can be reached. Rome can fall. That idea, which for centuries was unthinkable, disappears in a matter of days. And when it disappears, something fundamental changes. Because Rome's power wasn't just military or economic, it was psychological. It was the feeling that it was above everything, and that feeling never returns. Even so, Rome continues. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't turn into ruins. The empire continues to exist for decades, but it's no longer the same. Every subsequent crisis feels closer to the limit. Every problem seems harder to contain. The wear and tear continues, without pause, without a clear moment where everything stops. And finally, you arrive at the year 476, fall of the Western Roman Empire. There is no great final battle, no epic siege, no last act of resistance to mark the end. There is something much simpler. Odoacer takes control, Romulus Augustulus is deposed, and Rome ceases to be an empire. Without noise, without ceremony, the city is still there. People are still walking. Trade doesn't disappear overnight, but the system that had sustained everything for centuries no longer exists. That's how a story of greatness ends. Tell me, what impressed you most about this tragic fall? Leave it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this immersion in time, hit like, subscribe to Historia Reconstruida so you don't miss any journey, and click on this video if you want to keep discovering the best kept secrets of our past.